In a world increasingly defined by division, cruelty, and noise, the voice of a 13th century mystic still echoes, softly but insistently, through the corridors of time. It does not shout, but it does not whisper either. It speaks in the language of the soul, calling us not only to reflect, but to act from a place of radical compassion. Jalal al-Din Rumi, the Sufi poet and mystic, once wrote, "Raise your words, not voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder." Yet today, the thunder of injustice is deafening. From refugee crises to racial inequality, from economic exploitation to spiritual emptiness, modern society is plagued not only by suffering, but by the erosion of empathy. In this climate, Rumi's voice is not just poetic, it is prophetic. His vision of love and compassion as transformative forces, both personal and societal, is a radical antidote to the dehumanization of our age. But what does it truly mean to live compassionately, especially in the face of injustice? And how does Rumi's Sufi path differ from modern, often diluted, interpretations of kindness? Welcome to the Unfolding Journey, a channel devoted to exploring timeless wisdom for the modern soul. Here, we navigate the intersections of spirituality, ethics, mysticism, and personal growth, drawing from ancient traditions to illuminate today's dilemmas. If you're someone who seeks depth in a shallow world, who finds solace in stillness and strength in silence, you're in the right place. Let's take this journey inward, where the answers have always quietly waited. In the Sufi worldview, the heart is the seat of divine encounter. The purification of the heart, through remembrance, dhikr, self-awareness, and love, is not merely a spiritual exercise, it is a moral imperative. Rumi, following this path, sees compassion not as mere sentimentality, but as the highest ethical state, emerging from union with the divine. For Rumi, God is not a distant authority, but the very reality of love itself. His famous verse, "I was raw, I became cooked, I burned," speaks of a spiritual transformation that begins in the furnace of suffering and ends in the illumination of love. This love is not private, it spills outward. To Rumi, to love God is to love creation. It is to see even the oppressor as spiritually lost, not inherently evil. This doesn't excuse wrongdoing, but it reframes justice, not as retribution, but as restoration. The 21st century presents a moral battlefield where the enemies are not only external systems, but internal cynicism. Activism is often performed, outrage commodified, and the vulnerable overlooked. In this chaos, Sufism offers a countercurrent. Compassion in the face of injustice is not weakness, it is resistance. Rumi challenges us to root our activism not in anger, but in mercy. In one of his lesser-quoted passages, he writes, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." Applied to societal struggle, this implies that even communal suffering can be alchemized into collective healing, but only through consciousness. True compassion, in the Sufi sense, is active. It listens deeply. It bears witness. It disrupts harm without becoming violent. It understands that oppressors, too, are imprisoned by ego, fear, and ignorance. This does not mean staying silent. Rumi himself was no stranger to the social corruption of his time. But rather than fight fire with fire, he lit a candle, and it is still burning. There is a dangerous misconception that compassion equals passivity, that to forgive is to forget, that to be kind is to be naive. Rumi and the Sufi tradition flip this entirely. The true warrior, according to Sufism, is one who has conquered the nafs, the ego. The greatest jihad is the jihad al-nafs, the inner struggle against selfishness, pride, hatred, and apathy. Without winning that battle, any external struggle becomes corrupt. So what does Sufi compassion look like in real terms? It looks like advocating for the poor while not hating the rich. It looks like standing with the oppressed while praying for the transformation of the oppressor. It looks like confronting injustice without letting it poison your soul. Rumi's poetry returns again and again to the notion that our enemies are not outside, but within. He warns that righteous anger can easily become self-righteous hatred. Compassion, therefore, must include accountability, but with humility. Polarization is the hallmark of our age. Us versus them, left versus right, believers versus skeptics. But Rumi's vision explodes all binaries. He writes, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." This is not moral relativism. This is mystical clarity. That field is the heart, the place where we see the other not through the ego's lens, but through the eye of the soul. Imagine applying that to today's conflicts: Israel-Palestine, racial violence, environmental exploitation. It doesn't mean agreeing with all sides. It means not losing our humanity in the fight for justice. If Rumi lived today, he would not retreat into monasteries. He would be in the streets, not shouting, but singing. He would hold both the victim and the villain in the circle of his concern, calling both to transformation. He would recognize injustice not just in broken systems, but in broken hearts. He might write poems about capitalism's greed, but also about the emptiness of spiritual materialism. He might sit with refugees, listen to the unheard, and remind us that the first step to saving the world is remembering our own divine origin. And most of all, he would insist that real change begins within. You don't need to become a dervish or recite Persian poetry to walk this path. You need only to begin with presence. Here are a few ways Rumi's message can come alive in your own life. Listen with the heart. When others speak, try not to judge or prepare your reply. Just witness. Start with the self. Ask, where am I unjust? Where am I closed? Where am I afraid? Serve silently. Help others not for approval, but for love. Speak truth gently. Do not let silence enable harm, but let your words come from love, not fury. Pray, not just for peace, but for clarity. Inner clarity creates outer impact. Rumi's Sufi ethics call us to a fierce compassion, one that does not flinch in the face of injustice, yet refuses to let hatred take root in the heart. His vision is not a utopian dream, but a spiritual discipline, a path that demands as much courage as it does tenderness. In a world that rewards outrage over understanding, dominance over humility, and vengeance over mercy, choosing compassion is nothing short of revolutionary. But Rumi reminds us that this revolution begins within. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? To choose compassion is to refuse the crawl. It is to rise, to remember who we are at the soul level, and to extend that recognition to others, even those who seem least deserving. This is not easy, but it is necessary, because without compassion, justice becomes hollow. Without love, truth becomes sharp and divisive. And without inner transformation, outer change becomes temporary. Rumi's message is not about escape. It's about embodied mysticism, a love that sees clearly, a compassion that acts justly, a heart that burns so brightly it lights the way for others. If this message resonates with you, if Rumi's vision feels like a compass for your own journey, then we invite you to walk this path with us. Backhand Index Pointing writes, subscribe to The Unfolding Journey for more soul-centered reflections, explorations of mystical traditions, and practical wisdom for living with depth in an often shallow world. Leave a comment below. What does compassion mean to you in today's world? And share this video with someone who needs a little light, a little love, and a reminder of their wings. Until next time, may your heart stay soft, your spirit stay strong, and your path unfold with meaning.